الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على أفضلهم وخاتم النبيين محمد الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ونزلنا عليك الكتاب تبيانا لكل شيء وهدى ورحمة وبشرى للمسلمين صدق الله العظيم. We begin with Allah's blessed name. We praise Him and we glorify Him as He ought to be praised and glorified. And we pray for peace and for blessings on all of His noble messengers, and in particular on the last of them all, the blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. I greet you at the Pakistan Community Centre in Reading, outside of London, with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And I want to begin by expressing my gratitude to Ishrat for the great effort he made to organize this lecture. And it was he who chose the topic, and he insisted on the importance of this topic. I wanted to speak on another topic. I wanted to speak on an easier topic, the Quran and the methodology of reciting the Quran, which is a subject which someone should take to the Prime Minister of Pakistan, because I don't want to see him die the way Ziaul-Haq died. I want to see him live. And if he is to live, he needs protection. And the protection is to come from Allah. You see, so that topic, the Quran and the movement methodology for reciting the Quran is important for protection. But this topic is also very important: Islam, Riba, and modern Western civilization. I also want to thank the Pakistan Community Centre for kindly agreeing to allow me to deliver this lecture in this hall. If I come back again, inshallah, next time, I hope the weather will be better. We have a larger gathering, but never mind. Alhamdulillah for you. I'm grateful that you are here. And the lecture is divided into 3 parts. The last one is by far the most important. In the first part, we briefly try to explain what is Riba from the Quran. In the second part, again, we turn to the Quran to explain modern Western civilization, which unfortunately is not taught in the Darul Uloom. But in the third part, what's the way out? What should we do? So let us begin with Allah's blessed name. And I want to remind you of the importance of Riba. And that is, before defining Riba, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose this topic for the last revelation to come down in the Quran. Why did He choose this topic for the last revelation? Until Qiyamah, no more revelation. This is the last word from Him, until Qiyamah. And in that last revelation, He declared war. He declared war on the moneylender. And modern Western civilization is the biggest moneylender in the world today. He declared war, and He said His messenger, Nabi Muhammad is also at war. And my first question is, if Allah and His messenger are at war, and we are not at war, what is the fate that awaits us? We certainly are not at war, because I don't know what's your experience, but my experience is that this subject is never taught by anyone. You never hear it on a khutbah. And not only is it not taught, but those who are our teachers simply do not have the competence to teach it. Unfortunately, they don't have the competence to teach it. I once went to a Darul Uloom, and the head of the Darul Uloom was a dignified old man, Maulana Sima, May Allah have mercy on his soul. He died now. And Maulana Sima sat down in the front row while I lectured for an hour and a half on Islam and the international monetary system. And then after that, another question and answer session that lasted for 1 hour. And when the 2.5 hours were up, the head of this Darul Uloom came, put his arms around me and hugged me. And he said, we have to teach this subject in the Darul Uloom. That's what he said. It's not done. And so we are in a predicament. The reason why Allah chose this subject for the very last revelation is because not only of its supreme importance, but its supreme danger. Nabi Muhammad ﷺ also spoke more harshly on this than any other subject. He who was sent as Rahmatul lil Alameen, he cursed La'ana. He cursed all four. And he said they're all equally guilty. The one who takes riba, the one who gives riba, the one who records the transaction, and the two witnesses. If you have the curse of a prophet upon you, how can you expect help from Allah? When India attacks, as India is going to attack, as certain as the sun rises from the east, that's where we're heading for now. Allah says in the Quran, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَقْبِلُ بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. That Allah will not answer your dua. No. Allah will not intervene to change the condition of a people, regardless how terrible it may be, until they take the initiative, using Allah's guidance to change their own condition. So if you have the curse of a prophet upon you, how do you expect Allah to answer your dua? He cursed all four. And he said they're all equally guilty. He said that Riba is comprised of 70 different parts. And the smallest part is equivalent to a man marrying his own mother. It's not possible for a prophet to speak with harsher language than that. That's the harshest possible language. And so this is the importance of the subject of riba. And yet, we live with this pathetic state that the subject is not being taught. And indeed, more pathetically, we don't have people with the competence to teach it. In the Quran, Allah speaks of one kind of riba by name. But the other kind of riba is also there in the Quran, but not by name. But in the hadith it's there. The first kind of riba mentioned in the Quran is, of course, money being lent or borrowed on interest. That's easily understood by everybody. And Allah says, when the money lender turns away from riba, or is forced to turn away from riba, then he is entitled to the return of the principal sum lent. Let me repeat this. When the money lender, because this is critical for the Pakistani government, when the money lender voluntarily gives up his demand for riba, the interest, or is forced to give it up, then he is entitled to the return of the principal sum lent. That's his entitlement. But of course, you will repay the principal sum in accordance with your capacity to repay, not in accordance with his demand of repayment, your capacity to repay. So this is the first kind of riba in the Quran. And why has Allah prohibited it? He gives us two lessons. One, and I'm speaking very rapidly now on a subject which is much bigger. Number one, in Surah Al-Rum, he says that what you invest in a riba transaction, that your capital sum might increase, might multiply at the expense of the wealth of others, will not multiply with Allah because He disapproves of it. وَمَا آتَيْتُم مِّن رِبًا لِيَرْبُوَ فِي أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ فَلَا يَرْبُو عِندَ اللَّهِ. But what you put out or you invest in charity, seeking Allah's pleasure, that will multiply many times. And so we have a contrast. The contrast is between riba and charity. What is the lesson being sent? Allah sent the Quran to a people who think. And one of the most powerful statements that Dr. Muhammad Iqbal has ever made, and it shook me up, because I regard Iqbal as one of my teachers. He said Muslims have stopped thinking for the last 500 years. And the evidence is plain and clear, he's correct. Because Muslims have never understood modern Western civilization. They've never been able to go to the Quran to understand what is modern Western civilization. None. They stop thinking. So Allah says, He gives us a contrast between riba and charity. And you have to think. That's what you have to do. You have to think. To understand what is the lesson being sent in this contrast. Imagine my astonishment when a graduate of a Darul Uloom here in Britain said to me, Sheikh, we're not allowed to think in a Darul Uloom. If you start thinking, you'll be expelled. I was astonished to hear this from a graduate of a Darul Uloom in this country. You're not allowed to think. The answer is that a perfect act of charity is one in which you give and you take nothing in return. And Allah is saying that riba is the opposite to that. You may not yourself recognize it, but the moneylender has an agenda. And his hidden agenda is to take all of your wealth and give you nothing in return. And so eventually Africa is miserably poor. And Pakistan and Bangladesh and Algeria and Morocco and Tunisia and Indonesia are miserably poor. I know because I travel to these places. I just spent a whole month in Indonesia. I just spent almost a month in East Africa, in Mombasa and Nairobi. And I can see the miserable poverty. When I reached Pakistan in 1964, when most of you were not even born, I saw miserable poverty in Pakistan in 1964. Imagine what it is now. Imagine. So the contrast between riba and charity, which Allah has given, not me, is simple to understand. That in a perfect act of charity you give and you take nothing in return. And in the perfect act of riba you take and you give nothing in return. The moneylender never engages in a perfect act of riba, because he doesn't want you to see the head. He doesn't want you to see the head of the snake. So he'll try to cover it up and camouflage it, and so you'll be deceived and you'll not be able to recognize that this is like a vacuum, what do you call it, for cleaning the carpet? A hoover to clean is a vacuum pumping. It's sucking the wealth. And this sucking has been going on now for how many decades? Almost 100 years. And as a result of this wealth being sucked, today they have all the wealth and we have nothing. And when we have nothing and they have all the wealth, then our people have to give up Mirpur and give up Pindi and give up wherever, all the way, and come to live in the land of the rich. Because this is where there is wealth, and over there there is nothing. It's not just Pakistan, Bangladesh, it's Indonesia, it's all of Africa want to come to Britain, want to go to the United States. Why? Because all the wealth has already been sucked. Then there's a second lesson taught in the Quran. And I feel a certain pain of moving so rapidly with such an important subject, but we have a long way to go tonight. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah gives this second contrast. The moneylender argues that money lending is a legitimate form of business. إِنَّمَا الْبَيْعُ مِثْلُ الرِّبَى. But Allah says no. وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. Allah has made business halal, but made riba haram. And so now we are forced to think, this is what Allah has done. He has forced us to think. Why is it that riba does not qualify as a business transaction? The Quran does not tell you. The Quran invites you to think, and that is what we're not doing. Our Darul Uloom is not doing it. I have to speak because I've just reached 80 years of age by the moon. By the sun I'm still 77, but the moon is more important to me than the sun. And tomorrow Allah will call me away. So I want it to be recorded in the record. That the Darul Uloom is, I'm not disrespecting them. I'm not treating them in any disrespectful way. I'm just pleading to understand your Darul Uloom is not doing the job it's supposed to do. That's all. Don't be annoyed with me for that. And close the doors of the masjid for me because of that. If Iqbal was here, he'd say exactly the same thing I'm saying today. But you wouldn't throw stones at Iqbal, so why throw stones at me? The reason why a riba transaction does not qualify as a business transaction, money lending, is because a business transaction, in order to qualify as a business transaction, must admit of a possibility of either a profit or a loss. Do I need to continue? Do you understand that? Yeah? That's it. In order to qualify as a business transaction, it must admit of the possibility of either a profit or a loss. What is profit in Urdu? Loss. Nuksan? Loss. Nuksan? My Urdu not so good. Either a profit or a loss. In other words, when you do business, you embrace risk. R-I-S-K. And when you embrace risk, you keep the door open for Allah. It is not the function of the state to distribute and redistribute. Well, that's the failure of socialism. I wish Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was sitting here so I could talk to him. It is not the function of the state to distribute or to redistribute wealth. That will lead to the road of corruption. That will destroy the free and the fair market. It is Allah. He is the one who is Al-Razak. And He distributes and He redistributes. So He can give to you and He can take from you. And so, when the door is kept open, and Allah can take from some and give to others. Now listen carefully. And the market is a free and a fair market. Then wealth, I'm speaking slowly now, wealth can circulate through the economy. And so the rich will not remain permanently rich. And the poor will not remain permanently poor. They created Pakistan in the name of Islam. And from the day Pakistan was born to this day, the economy has remained the same. No change in the economy. Wealth has never been circulating through that economy. And so the poor have remained poor, and the rich have remained rich. This is a sick economy. And Allah prohibits that in the Quran. He says, كَيْ لَا يَكُونَ الدُّولَةَ بَيْنَ الْأَغْنِيَاءِ مِنْكُمْ. It is not one that wealth should circulate only amongst the wealthy. Around the world today, thanks to modern Western civilization, wealth no longer circulates through the economy. Nowhere in the world, nowhere. Around the world today, wealth circulates only amongst the wealthy. And so the rich are now permanently rich and the poor are permanently poor. That's one form of Riba. And the banking system that came from the West is the central instrument for that system of Riba to be established. And the IMF is the heart of the banking system. Not Basel, but the IMF. Before we end tonight we're going to have to do some thinking. What do we do about it? You may have read Peter John Perkins' book. Put your hands up. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. How many of you have read it? Oh, you've not. So please get a copy. Please get a copy. And you might want to drop a copy at the Darul room as well. Confessions of an Economic Hitman, in which he explains that they're not lending money to you. They're not lending money to you. The IMF is not lending money to you. The commercial banks owned and operated by our enemies are not lending money to you only for the purpose of getting your wealth and becoming richer. They are deliberately lending money to you that they know you cannot repay. He explains it in that book. And so they are using riba as an instrument for enslavement. When you do not have the freedom anymore to act and to speak as you want to, because your creditor will not allow you, you become a slave. And that is why Allah used the last revelation on riba, so that you would protect your freedom and you would not allow yourself to become enslaved. In the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ gave the second kind of riba. This is in the Quran as well, but not my name. He said, if you meet a man coming to the market to sell his goods and you buy his goods from him before he enters into the market, When he enters the market, he finds that he could have gotten a better price in the market. He said, that's riba. You exploited his ignorance of the market price to engage in a transaction of deception, to get a profit and a gain to which you are not justly entitled. That's the elegant way. But the Americans have a nice expression for it. They say, that's a rip-off. So a rip-off is riba. And in the Quran, Allah speaks about it and He denounces the Jews. And I can say, yes, the Jews, because Allah said it in the Quran. وَأَكْلِهِمْ أَمْوَالَ النَّاسِ بِالْبَاطِلِ. And they ripped off people. That's what Allah is saying in the Quran. They ripped them off. That's the riba. This form of riba, which is a rip-off, is just as dangerous as that one, which is the banking system. The biggest rip-off that mankind has ever witnessed is the rip-off in respect to what is money. On Saturday I'm flying to Inverness, and on Sunday I have to go to a Roman Catholic monastery, but in Britain they don't call it a monastery, they call it an abbey. And this monastery is about 45 minutes from Inverness, and I'm supposed to speak on money. And a Roman Catholic scholar will then speak also on money. But his views are already similar to mine. Yes. Yeah. So this session is going to take place on Sunday afternoon at this Roman Catholic monastery in northern Scotland. The biggest rip-off of all is the rip-off in the world of money. That what they did was to take the money that Allah had created and remove it from the market after they had colonized it. With a point of a sword, they'd come and occupy our territories and colonize us. And they never decolonized until they had removed the money that Allah had created and replaced it with their money. And their money was made of paper. At that time, the most important Muslim community in the world was the Muslim community in India. It had a far, far greater influence than any Arab community, including Egypt, the Indian Muslims at that time. I don't know whether Pakistani and Indian Muslims remember this now, that once upon a time the Muslim community of India was the intellectual elite of the world of Islam. And so the British had to be very, very careful with India. If they lost India, they lose the world of Islam. So when they colonized India, and they then brought in paper money to replace the dinar and dirham, which was being used in India at that time, there were some scholars of Islam, their names are now forgotten, nobody remembers, but they were few, and they stood up with integrity and courage, and they denounced this as haram. But the establishment betrayed Islam. That's what the establishment did. And I can't even mention the name now. If I mention the name of this scholar, they will come after me. Their scholar, their great alim, wrote a book to defend the monetary system of paper money. I can't even mention his name today. This was a great betrayal. They could not have succeeded in replacing gold and silver with paper money if they had not banned the use of gold and silver as money. And they did that. As soon as the Second World War was ending, and they were now ready to formally establish a structure for monetary system, they organized the Bretton Woods Conference in upstate New York. And out of that Bretton Woods Conference emerged the International Monetary Fund. And in the Articles of Agreement of the International Monetary Fund, one of the articles, it just slipped in, like a thief in the dark. You could hardly, if you read it too quickly, you might miss it. That you prohibited from using gold as money. They didn't even put in silver. They just wanted to make it as short as possible and tuck it in. You're prohibited from using gold as money. Why? Because if ever gold and silver comes into the market, the bogus money will collapse. That's why. That's why. People are not stupid. People are not stupid. From the time you have dinar and dirham in the market, everybody, most of all your wife and your grandmother and your mother, they will understand. This is the money that we must use. And so they banned it. What Allah had made halal, they made haram. What is the implication of making haram what Allah made halal? Oh yes, the Darul Uloom will answer that question. It is shirk. Yes. Surah At-Tawbah. It is shirk. And if we follow it and accept what they have done, then we are also in the shirk. To make haram what Allah made halal. And so we have to address this at the end of this lecture. I wish I could go on more on this monetary system. I don't want to take up all the time to move from gold and silver to the Bretton Woods Accord, to the IMF, to the US dollar being redeemable in gold at $35 an ounce, and this going on to 1971, and then the collapse of Bretton Woods, and then in 1974 the birth of the petrodollar, and now the movement away. The petrodollar is in trouble. The hadith of Sahih Bukhari, which of course is mutashabiha, it has to be interpreted. It's not muhkama. That the river Euphrates will uncover a mountain of gold. You're familiar with that? Put your hands up. Ah, no, that's better. The river, you've been listening to me then. The only reason why I am able to explain that hadith is because my background in monetary economics, that's fine. It's not taught in the Darul Uloom. That the river Euphrates will uncover a mountain of gold. People will fight for the gold. 99 out of every 100 who fight for the gold will be killed. Who fight for the gold will be killed. And everyone will say, I will be the one who will survive, and the Muslim must not touch that gold. This, of course, is the Malhama, or the Great War, Armageddon, 99 out of 100. But is where we are today. The petrodollar monetary system is indeed a mountain of gold. That an ocean of oil underneath the river, you're familiar with this, an ocean of oil underneath the river is now functioning as a mountain of gold. Are you going, excuse me, are you going to close the door of the masjid for me because I interpret this correctly and you cannot do it? Strange. This is the correct interpretation. But when you interpret something, you must always say Allah knows best. And you don't pick a fight with people over interpretation. No. What is plain and plain, the Quran, you have to fight over it. But when it's an interpretation, you have the freedom. China is now attacking the monetary system. China could not have done it on her own. No. So the Chinese had to wait. This is my lecture in Birmingham coming up on the 17th, 19th. This is the lecture coming up in Birmingham on the 19th. Please come. China had to wait until the Soviet Union folded up and Russia returned to her Orthodox Christian heart. And Russia rapidly emerged as a powerful state. And then China could build friendship and alliance with Russia. It could not do it with the Soviet Union. And now with that alliance in place, now China has the power to challenge the monetary system. And that's what China is doing now. And that monetary system is coming now. It's coming. The reason why they cannot attack Iran, even though they blame Iran for the attack on the Saudi oil field. They blame Iran for it. But they cannot attack Iran, because if they attack Iran, the US dollar will collapse. That's why. So the monetary system is fragile now, and it can collapse. It's in danger. And that is what our prophet was speaking about. When the time comes, if they succeed in impeaching Trump and putting Pence in his place, or if they had succeeded to get Hillary Clinton, they'd be ready for war. The longer they wait, the more difficult it will be for them. They have to wage war. So that nuclear war is coming. It's going to be a big war. It's going to be the Malhama our prophet spoke about. It's going to be Armageddon. But where are the scholars of Islam who are talking about this? This is around the corner. This is the monetary system now. They want to dislodge money from the control of governments in order to prepare the way for one universal currency for all of mankind, which will be issued by
Israel.
The state of Israel, of course. They have to dislodge money from the control of governments and central banks. So that's why you have cryptocurrencies. Any Tom, Dick and Harry, any organization, any firm can now issue money. And we may see some short-term benefits in it. But the long-term implication is this is a passing cloud. This is meant to dislodge money from the control of governments and central banks so that they can come with their one currency tomorrow for all of mankind. I may be wrong, but I believe this will come after the Great War. And so here we are. These are the two kinds of riba. The riba of the money, the banking system, and the riba of the monetary system. The Prime Minister of Pakistan could not, of course, make adverse comments on the monetary system when he is just borrowing money from the IMF. So he had to remain silent on that. So he mentioned about how the rich was stealing the money and packing it up in private, secret accounts and so on. And that, of course, is correct. And that must have embarrassed the Western world. But that's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is the monetary system. Now then, we go to modern Western civilization. There's never been a civilization in all of human history like the modern West. It is the first civilization in history which has acquired the power to establish its rule over the world. This never happened before. And it established its rule over the world while claiming to be the chosen people of the Lord God. That they were born superior. And they have to teach Imran how to eat. You can't eat curry fish and rice, Imran, by washing your hands and eating with your hands. That is an uncivilized way. You can't take a nice hot Afghan naan and break it with your, of course wash your hands first, and then break it with your hand and eat some chicken karahi. No, that's the uncivilized way. We've come to civilize you. The civilized way is to use cutlery. You do not touch food with your hands. Only those uncivilized natives do that. So not only did they come with a matchless power to take control of the world, and they did it with the wars of imperialism and then colonization, but they came with a further agenda, and that is of transforming all of mankind into carbon copies of themselves. And the Prime Minister made mention of it in his talk about how Muslims now they feel vulnerable, so they start putting on suit and tie, and everybody wants to speak English. I love that piece. I love that piece. This is in the Quran, when Allah says, وَلَنْ تَرْضَ عَنْكَ الْيَهُودُ وَلَا النَّصَارَى حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُمْ. That they will not be content until they get you to become carbon copies of themselves. It's there in the Quran. Not only, I have not started using the Quran as yet, I'm just explaining modern Western civilization. Not only did they come with this matchless power, but the power came from a scientific and technological revolution which cannot be explained with normal tools of scientific analysis. No, it's beyond the capacity of the normal tools of scientific analysis to explain the still unfolding scientific and technological revolution. It's not finished yet. It's not finished yet. Yeah. Every time they came with something new, they changed the world. Allah gave us horses and mules and camels, and He said so in the Quran. He said so. I gave them to you to travel with and to take your baggage and your loads from distant places. Yes, without this there will be terrible difficulty. He says this in the Quran. And then our Prophet prophesied. He said the day will come when a baby horse will be born. A baby horse is called, come on, a foal. A foal. A foal will be born and live his life without ever being ridden. This is a hadith. This is a hadith. So when they came with mechanized transport, the motor car came, and the train, and then the aeroplane, suddenly all the world is transformed. And nobody uses animals anymore except in the remote countryside. We used to have to send a message, a letter from one place to another place with a bird. Who did that? Who did that? He sent a message to a queen. Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam. He sent a message, a letter with a bird, the hudhud. That's how they communicated. And in North America, the American Indians use smoke to send messages. The way they will use a wet blanket to build a fire, and the way the smoke goes up into the sky, we send a message. And then came letters that you send by a ship. And the ship would take months for the letter to arrive. And then came mechanized transport, so now the letters can go faster. And then one day, we got something called a telegram. You remember it? Telegram. You had to go to the telegraph office and you had to write the telegram and pay a certain amount that would take a few days to reach. Yeah, you used the telegram, didn't you? Remember? And then came the telephone. And to make a call, you had to book the call. You want to call Britain from Pakistan, you got to book the call and wait. Maybe a few days, you got to wait. And then came something called direct dialing. Direct dialing. But you still have to use a fixed phone. And then came the cellular phone and electronic mail. And so every time they bring something, they change the world. Now hardly anyone ever picks up a pen to write a letter anymore. The world is changed. So every time they come with a scientific and technological revolution, they bring something which instantly transforms the whole world. Imagine my astonishment, because I am researching Dajjal in the Quran, and that led me to Dabbatul Ard, and it led me to the electromagnetic waves, which we are being inundated, which is connected again with Zulkarnain and the barrier, made of iron, copper. And I therefore began to realize the danger of the electromagnetic waves, particularly on the mind of the child, the memory of the child. And I realized that tomorrow no child who grows up in the city can become a Hafiz of the Quran. Remember my words. The only Hafiz of the Quran you'll get is a child who's grown up in the remote countryside, who's not been damaged by the electromagnetic waves. When you lose your memory is no longer what it used to be. You cannot become a thinker. No, you just become drifting. So I was in Indonesia, and I'm addressing this school, 1,000 students, and they're ranging from age 8 to about 16. I said, all those who have a smartphone, put your hands up. 1,000 hands went up. I said, okay, put your hands up. Put your hands up. All those who do not have a smartphone, put your hands up. About 3 or 4. Maybe they were too poor. So this is an indication that even in a remote part of Indonesia, amongst the poor, miserably poor, in a school for children, 99.9% of them are already using smartphones. This is the scientific and technological revolution which is unfolding. Where did they get this? From where is this emerging? It cannot be explained simply by normal tools of analysis. What does the Quran have to say on this subject? This civilization also came with a mysterious agenda. I'm going to have to cut short now. I can say much more on one Western civilization. With a mysterious agenda of not only ruling the world, but transforming all of mankind into one global society. They call it globalization. So all of mankind will now become interconnected as part of a global society. And that global society would be one in which religion will play a diminishing role. And so they bring something called secularism. They want to secularize the political system. And so we abandon the Quran, which gives us a political system. They want to secularize the economy, so we abandon the Quran, which gives us an economy. They want to secularize the educational system. And so now we have legions and legions of graduates with their PhDs, but they are secularized. And as a consequence, they not only have no capacity to bring the truth which is in Allah's book to bear on politics and economics and so on, but they consider this to be a backward step. And anyone who attempts to bring religion to bear on politics, such a person is backward. His scholarship is worthy of Disneyland. That's what we produce now in our universities. When our people say goodbye to the truth which is in the Quran, which is what we have done, we're only holding on to the shell of Islam, the rituals. We lack the capacity to go to the Quran to counteract their evil agenda. We do that because we've lost our religious identity, really. We're only holding on to the shell of Islam. That is their agenda. A godless agenda. It's not just a godless agenda, it's worse than that. When you commit zina, what happens? Answer. You lose your nur. And when you lose your nur, you have only darkness inside. And if you have darkness inside, Sebastian, if you have darkness inside, you can only see with the external eye. You are internally blind. So they can take you for a ride and you wouldn't even know. That's their agenda. Why are they doing this to mankind? They are dismantling religion around the world. That is what Modi is doing to India. He's dismantling the Hindu religion, and the Hindus can't see that. Netanyahu was dismantling Judaism, and the Jews couldn't see that. And in the Western world, Christianity is being dismantled, and the Christians can't see that. A man can now marry another man and get a marriage certificate. And you still call yourself a Christian? As you enter into this state of, is a nice English word, decadence. What's the Urdu equivalent? Decadence. Decadent. Not badmash. Huh? Hayashi. Decadence. As you enter into the embrace of decadence, you can no longer fight any battles for truth. You're just like cannon fodder. Cannon fodder. And so they come with a sexual revolution. Imran Khan pointed out, we want to put our women in clothes and you want to take off their clothes. He said it. Our prophet prophesied. He said women would be dressed and yet naked. Why? So that they can be used to dismantle the male-female relationship in marriage, and the chastity and modesty that comes with it. And this is where it's starting. It's starting here. A decadent society with a sexual revolution. And he says that men will be dressed like women. You know that? Which is when a man abandons his role as a man, that he is dressed like a woman. That's what it means. Not physically wearing a dress. Men are supposed to maintain women. But now I am told, this is what they tell me, that in London, you first find out how much is she earning? How much are you bringing home every month before I can marry you? Is it true? Men are supposed to maintain women and children, not let the state maintain them on social security and stuff. This civilization is engaged in all of these things because of one basic agenda. They want to establish the rule over all of mankind and subject all of mankind to their authority so that they could hand over from Pax Britannica to Pax Americana, and then from Pax Americana to Pax Judaica. Pax Judaica. I wrote this in Jerusalem in the Quran 20 years ago. 20 years ago. They know it, they read it, but they don't agree. That's the word of Islamic scholarship out there. They will not agree with what I'm saying. No, Imran will say it's misguided. I have a warning to give to them, not with hatred, not with hostility. I have a warning to give to them, and I give it with sadness in my heart. The warning is this, that if Allah in His kindness has guided me, given me knowledge, and I am explaining the Quran correctly, and I am interpreting the Quran correctly, what is the fate which awaits you if you block me? You will not allow me to teach and to speak in a masjid. What is the fate which awaits you? This is a warning to them. And it's not given in any hostile way, because they are my brothers. The West was created so that Israel could rule the world. Now let's go to the Quran. And then we come to the last part of the lecture. There are two kinds of verses in the Quran, Muhkamat and Mutashabihat. Muhkamat are those which are plain and clear. You just need tafsir. But Mutashabihat you have to interpret. And Allah, in His wisdom, and He is more wise than you are, He put Mutashabihat verses in the Quran, so Washington cannot. Jerusalem cannot penetrate the Quran. No. That's why you have Mutashabihat in the Quran. Eat and drink until the white thread of dawn, you call it taga, the white thread of dawn is distinct from the black thread. Then you begin the fast. So he put the white thread and the black thread underneath his pillow, and in the morning he's trying to figure out when to start the fast. Happily you don't do that, do you? So then he went to the Prophet ﷺ and explained it difficultly. It was at that moment and not before. At that moment and not before that the Prophet ﷺ then gave the ta'wil, the interpretation. That when Allah said, eat and drink until the white thread of dawn is distinct from the black thread, what He meant by that, this is the interpretation. Eat and drink until the light of the day is distinct from the darkness of the night. This is a classical example of an ayah mutashabihah. The next thing we need to know about the Quran is that you never take any verse of the Quran in isolation. If you do that, then you'll conclude, as I did when I was a young man, that Iblis is an angel. Yeah, I came to that conclusion when I was 18. When you use the wrong methodology of taking a verse in isolation. Allah worded it like this because He wanted to teach you a lesson. But I was too young to learn it at that time. You go to the whole Quran, don't take any verse in isolation. Don't take any part of a verse in isolation. No, you can be mistaken. And so here we are, Surah Al-Ma'idah. And Allah says, "Ba'ada'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem." I only have to give you the name of the surah. I don't have to give you the ayah number. That's your homework, okay? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who have faith. Meaning, in this Quran. La tattakhidhu al-yahuda wal-nasara awliya. Do not take the Jews and do not take the Christians as your awliya, your friends and allies, your friends and allies. The schoolboy will take this in isolation and come to the conclusion that Allah is prohibiting us from being friends and allies with all Christians and all Jews. That's the schoolboy. But the one who uses proper methodology will go to the whole Quran and say, no, there cannot be conflict in this Quran. Contradiction. No. This Quran is free from contradiction. But there will be contradiction if we say this, that Allah is prohibiting us from friendship and alliance with all Christians and all Jews. Why? Because right there, later on, in the same surah, He says that the time will come when you'll find a people who will be closest in love and affection for you. And they will declare, we are Christians. We are Christians. There'll be a conflict here, contradiction. Secondly, you're allowed to marry a Christian woman. The Quran tells us so. We have to say to her, my beloved wife, you can be my wife, you can't be my friend. You're allowed to eat with them. Their food is halal for you, and your food is halal, but on the condition that they are eating food which is halal for them. And I have met Christians like that. So when I sit down with him to eat, and I'm eating the food which is halal for him, I'll have to say to this Christian, you know, I can eat with you, but you can't be my friend. I can break bread with you, but you can't be my friend. Sounds foolish, isn't it? And why would Allah ask us, prohibit us from being friends and allies with the people with whom He Himself shows favor? You know, there are two kinds of Christians. Did you know that? There are those who try to follow Jesus and the rest who follow Santa Claus. And those who try to follow Jesus are in the Quran. A whole surah is called Surah Al-Rum. And when the Quran was revealed, those who are described as Rum were already worshipping three gods in one and one in three. And already worshipping Jesus as Son of God and Son. All of this already was done when the Quran was revealed. but they believe in the Father as the Supreme God, and the Son was not equal to the Father. Let me repeat that. Although they were worshipping Jesus as the third person of a Trinity, they believed that the Father was the Supreme God, and that the Son was not equal to the Father. But the other side of the Christian world, which came to the West, they changed it. And they said, no, the Son is equal to the Father. And they have one more thing to do, which comes. It's not yet come, it's coming. Tomorrow they're going to say that Mary is now equal to the Father. That's in the Quran. Did you say to the people, take me and my mother? Which surah? Al-Ma'idah. He's speaking to Nabi Isa, did you say to the people, take me and my mother as God beside Allah, equal to Allah? So this part has not yet come, it's coming. About these now, who are considered as good in the Quran, and I don't have to repeat what I've just said about them. Allah prophesied that after their defeat they'll be victorious. وَهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ غَلَبِهِمْ سَيَغْلِبُونَ. That after their defeat they will be victorious. And it happened. And Abu Bakr Siddiq won the bet. You know what the bet? Put your hands up. Nobody knows about the bet. You know what the bet? When this revelation came down, Makkah was mocking us. Because Makkah was supporting the Persian Empire, which was pagan. And we were identified with the Christians. So when the Persians defeated Byzantium, we defeated Constantinople, Makkah was celebrating. And when this revelation came down to say that Constantinople will defeat Persia soon, Makkah was mocking us with the challenge of Abu Bakr Siddiq to a bet. And when the Prophet ﷺ heard about the bet, he said Abu Bakr changed the bet. The Quran says that the victory will come fi bid'i sinin, between 3 and 9 years. Change the bet. So Abu Bakr Siddiq changed the bet and he won the bet. You won the bet. I'm sorry. I'm surprised you don't know about this. And Allah says in the Quran, on that day when Rome is victorious, وَيَوْمَئِذٍ يَفْرَحُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. On that day of victory of these Christian people, we Muslims will celebrate. There's much more I can speak on this ayah, but we don't have the time. So there are two kinds of Christians. There are those who find favor with Allah, and then there are others who follow Santa Claus. Allah could not be speaking about all Christians and all Jews when He said, don't take them as your friends and allies. Even a schoolboy would know that. So then, which Christians and which Jews is He talking about? Now we are asking the correct question. Now we're following the correct methodology. Because when we ask this question, the answer comes in the words which follow. Ba'aduhum awliya'u. Which now means, do not take such Christians and do not take such Jews. I wish Imran Khan was sitting here to listen to this. Do not take such Christians and do not take such Jews as your friends and allies, who themselves are friends and allies of each other. The Quran is anticipating, if you'll allow me to use that word, a day which is to come, when a mysterious reconciliation would take place between part of the Christian world and part of the Jewish world. And Judeo-Christian friendship and alliance would emerge. Ba'duhum awliya ba'd. When that alliance emerges, the Judeo-Christian alliance, you are prohibited from entering into the embrace of being their friends and allies. Ayub Khan didn't know that. When he wrote, what was the book he wrote? Any Pakistanis here? Any Pakistanis here? What is the book? Yes? Yes? Ayub Khan's famous book, and you never heard about it? Friends Not Masters. Now you remember? A very famous book when he was president. He addressed the Western world, and he perceived that the West wanted to rule over the world. And he says, listen, I don't want you as my master, we could be friends, but not masters. That's the name of the book, Friends Not Masters. Okay, you can. But Allah is prohibiting evil friendship. That Judeo-Christian alliance has today emerged. It's a Zionist Judeo-Christian alliance. And it is at the heart of modern Western civilization. That is the Quran explaining the emergence of modern Western civilization. The verse goes on to say, وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّهُ مِنْكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. Whosoever from amongst you turn to them with friendship and alliance with what Saudi Arabia has done from day one. From that miserable day one. Whosoever from amongst you turn to them with friendship and alliance, you belong to them, you no longer belong to us. When will Imran learn the lesson and reverse and get out of that Saudi embrace? I don't know. Inna Allah la yahdi al-qawm al-zalimin. Surely Allah does not provide guidance for a wicked people. This is Surah Al-Ma'idah. Can I go to one more verse of the Quran? I won't take too much of your time. Alright? There are many others, but I can't go indefinitely. When the Quran speaks, you've got to bow your head. This one is going to shock you. When they saw him die on the cross, they were convinced he was crucified. And if you were there and I was there, I would also be convinced. Because Allah says, وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ. Allah made it appear like that. So some of them, this is the Israelite people, some of them were celebrating because they rejected him as the Messiah. But others were weeping because they accepted him as the Messiah. Then Allah ordained that all be expelled from the Holy Land. Lock, stock and barrel all. But this part which you're celebrating are no longer referred to as Banu Israel. A new name comes into being in the Quran. They're now called Al-Yahud, or Jews. New terminology. And this part which was weeping, they're no longer called Banu Israel. They're called Al-Nasar, or Christians. That part is broken up into bits and pieces and scattered all over the world. وَقَطَّعَنَاهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أُمَمٍ. So they can never restore a holy state that they had in Jerusalem. The Nabi Sulaiman and Nabi Dawood. They can never do that. The Jews. But this part believed in him. So Allah blessed them to be able to conquer a city without having to fight for it. This hadith posed difficulties for me for a long time. So that's why if you want to become a scholar, you must allow the river of thought to flow at its own speed. Take your time. Allah's messenger speaks of a town, janibun minha fil bahr wa janibun minha fil bahr. One part of the town adjoins the land and the other part is by the sea. Good. Then the hadith says that the town has 3 sides. It's shaped like a triangle. And the Banu Ishaq come to this town because we no longer want to use the term Banu Israel. It could not be that part which is Yahud, it has to be this part. And they say, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. And one side of the town falls, and then they repeat it, and then second side, and they repeat, and then third side falls. And the town becomes theirs. Which town? Only one town fits the bill. Only one with 3 sides shaped like a triangle is Constantinople. And so Constantinople becomes a Christian town. And they establish a holy state there, as they had in Jerusalem. And they call it the Holy Byzantine Empire, right? Holy Constantinople. But as soon as the town becomes a Christian town, they saw that the Dajjal is released amongst your people. This is the hadith. We leave the hadith now and we go to the Quran. And this is the last reference in the Quran I'll make before we go to the last part of the lecture. And Allah speaks in Surah Al-A'raf about the town. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْقَرْيَةِ وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْقَرْيَةِ قَرْيَةِ. What is it? Any hafiz of the Quran? A qaryah which is hadirat al-bahr, a town which is by the sea. وَاسْأَلْهُمْ, that's it. وَاسْأَلْهُمْ عَنِ الْقَرْيَةِ الَّتِي كَانَتْ حَاضِرَةَ الْبَحْرِ. And question them about the town which was located by the sea. In this town are a people who are obliged to obey the law of the Sabbath. The law of the Sabbath, what is that? That Allah created the samawat and the earth in how many days? 6. And He says that in the Quran how many times? 6 times. That Allah created the samawat and the earth in 6 days. And on the 7th day, they say He rested on the 7th day. And we say, the Quran says, ثُمَّ اسْتَوَى عَلَى الْعَرْشِ. He was on the arsh. So to mark that event, the 7th day became the Sabbath day. And their law prohibits you from working on the 7th day. On the 7th day, you must either rest or pray. We don't have it, they have it. I feel jealous that they have it and we don't have it really. The Sabbath. We don't have the Sabbath, they have it. That's one of the things that they have that we don't have. So they're supposed to observe the Sabbath. So they can't fish on the Sabbath day. But this is the town that lives by fishing. And what Allah did was on the Sabbath day He sent all the fish. And they're long, big fish, and they jump in, you will see them, but you cannot fish on the Sabbath day. And on every other day of the week, no fish. This was a real terrible trial. 3 responses from the time. The first was the response of those who had been corrupted by Dajjal. And they didn't care 2 peanuts for the law. So they went fishing. And they're still fishing up to now. The second response was of those who warned them. Allah will punish you for violating the law. But the third response came from the Ahlul Basar, the people of insight, of internal insight. And this is which surah? Come on. Al-A'raf. I just said it. Surah Al-A'raf. The third group said, why warn these people? They have passed the point of no return. They will never come back. You're wasting your time. Then so said, so done, Allah punished them. There was those who went fishing. And what did He punish them with? Kunu kilanatan khasi'in, be apes, despised. The Quran does not permit you to say that a human being can be transformed into an ape. No, not by the Quran. Because a human being remains a human being until Judgment Day. That's right. So you cannot understand this literally. No. Number 2. The way of life of the apes is their fitrah. They don't wear clothes, but nothing shameful and despicable about that. And their bedroom life is in public. But that's not shameful and despicable, because that's their fitrah. So why be apes despised? Why? You have to think. You have to think. And as Iqbal said, we stopped thinking 500 years ago. That's why we're in the mess in which we are today. Forgive me for raising my voice. Because we stopped thinking. So then what does Allah mean? The answer is that these people are now cursed by Allah to eventually live like apes, like monkeys. That they will show a preference for public nudity instead of putting on clothes. And the Prime Minister mentioned that in his talk. And they will show a preference to bring their bedroom life in public rather than in private. These people actually left Constantinople and came to Rome. And came to Rome with Western Christianity. And from the time they came to Rome, in 1054, the split took place. 1054. 40 years later, from this side, the Crusades began. And from that side, the Ottoman flag was raised. And I will say nothing more for you. That's your something to think about now, from both sides. And so modern Western civilization has at its heart a people who have been cursed by Allah to eventually live like apes, with a preference for public nudity and a preference for their bedroom life in public. I was in Glasgow I had a free day, and the Botanic Gardens was just behind my hotel, so I went for a nice walk. And when I walked in the garden, I saw these Italian sculptures. This is at the heart of the Renaissance. They're proud. This is a centerpiece of Western civilization, the Renaissance. And in the Renaissance, there's the Italian sculptures, Leonardo da Vinci. But every time they sculptured the human being was always naked. And as I'm looking at these naked statues, it then clicked. This was a stepping stone to public nudity. But the nastiest one of all, you won't believe this one. When this civilization took Nabi Dawood alayhi salam and put him naked. Naked. And they call that the Renaissance sculpture. Nabi Dawood alayhi salam naked. I think it was Leonardo da Vinci who did it. So I could go on to more verses of the Quran to explain to you that modern Western civilization, I left out Gog and Magog. Sorry, but I don't have the time to do it. There are several other verses of the Quran, but we don't have the time, I'm sorry. Now then, let's go to the last part of the lecture. What do? They have designed Riba to trap us, because they want to rob us of our freedom, so we become enslaved, so they could hand over power to Israel tomorrow. They've done it through the banking system, and I urge you to read John Perkins' book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. It's easy. And they've done it through the monetary system, which, as I told you, is now moving to cryptocurrencies, and then eventually to one currency for all of mankind will be electronic money. What do? The minute you step out of line, they attack your money. When Hugo Chavez stood up to them in Venezuela, they attacked the Venezuelan Bolivar. He tried to get out of the IMF, he could not. They're wrapped him around with rope. The Venezuelan Bolivar today is worthless. Yeah. If Pakistan were to step out of line and to challenge them, the Pakistani rupee will quickly go down to 1,000 rupees to $1. When I arrived in Pakistan in 1964, $1, you won't believe this, $1 was 1 rupee, 75 paise. Do you believe me? Yeah, that's what we do. $1 was 1 rupee, 75 paise. That's 1964. Today it's about how much? 130?
99.
Huh?
180, 90, almost 200.
180? But it will reach 1,000 the minute you stand up to them. Okay? The Iranians stood up to them, and eventually they had to, the riyal is now worthless, so they have to bring tuman. So you go in a taxi, the taxi will tell you how many tuman. They won't use riyals anymore, because in riyals will be so many 100,000 riyals for a taxi ride. I went to Harare in Zimbabwe a couple of years ago. Wanted to make a telephone call. I had South African rands, so I said, how much should I change for a local telephone call? They said 2 million. 2 million. Why? Because Robert Mugabe, after the sun had set, then this man woke up and he took away the land from the white and he gave it to the black to save his own skin. And then they attacked the dollar, the Zimbabwean dollar. So what do? There is no way out. You cannot repay your loans with the interest. It is impossible to do it. Most of the world today cannot repay their loans with the interest. You cannot, it's impossible. And your situation grows worse and worse day by day, thanks to men like Nawaz Sharif. So what do? Answer, you have to give up this dream that you can never repay the loans with the interest. It's not possible. So then what do? Borrow more money to service the loan, which is what he just did. Does that make sense? Answer, you got to take the bull by the horns. And which is what he should have said at the UN General Assembly, that the moral law is the highest law. If he had spoken those words at the UN Assembly, the moral law is the highest law, he probably would not be able to leave the United States alive. The moral law is the highest law. And this is oppression. That we have to repay you, and we have no capacity to repay you. In the Torah, Allah Ta'ala in the Torah has said every 7 years, all loans must be wiped off. You cannot have a loan continuing for longer than 7 years. They call it the Jubilee year, because this is oppression. So you can use the Torah to explain as well. So the answer is, I'm going to use some difficult words now, that you have to take a decision. You're not going to make it public. A unilateral, meaning you will do it on your own. You don't have to negotiate with them. Unilateral repudiation, meaning you're not going to pay. A unilateral repudiation of all interest payments on loans. But we will repay the capital sum, because Allah commands that. The capital sum which was borrowed will be repaid, but would be repaid on the basis of our capacity to repay. Why? Because human rights come first. The rights of the people for food come first, before your right to repay. The moral law is the highest law. This is the bullet you have to bite. A unilateral repudiation of all interest payments on external and internal loans, and the capital sum to be repaid on the basis of our capacity to repay. If you make that public, your rupee will reach 1,000 overnight. So what do? Before you can make such a decision, you have to prepare. And the preparation is you have to have a backup currency. And the backup currency can only be dinar and dirham. Once you make dinar and dirham legal tender, what is legal tender? Sebastian?
You combine the two.
Legal tender means legally permissible to be used as money. Legally permissible to be used as money, legal tender. Once you make dinar and dirham legal tender, you cannot be in the IMF. Because the law of the IMF prevents it. But even if you leave the IMF, and and you want to make dinar and dirham money, they can't allow you to do it. Why? Tell me somebody. Let me stop now. Why is it they cannot allow you to use dinar and dirham as money? Even if you leave the IMF. Answer?
This will actually stop them from printing more and more fiat money, the US dollar.
Okay.
The monetary system will collapse.
Yeah? My hearing is declining now, and so I have to get a hearing aid, so please.
The monetary system will collapse.
The monetary system will collapse. Yes? Anybody else? Answer, if Pakistan could do it, everybody else will want to do it. Remember, all of those countries out there in the same predicament, all in the same basket. They cannot repay their debts. They're trapped. And if Pakistan chooses this way out, everybody else will follow the Pakistani example. You see? And then the whole trap that they designed to trap you will collapse. So if you want to get out of the trap, you have to prepare for war. Yes. They won't allow you to get out. You'll have to fight. This is a wake-up call. A wake-up call. It's not simply a matter of money. It's a matter of freedom. So Pakistan has to prepare itself. The only way you can be free is if you fight for your freedom. And you start now with preparing for the plan of a unilateral repudiation of all interest payments on loans. I made these proposals in Pakistan 20 years ago in Lahore in a conference. 20 years ago I said this. You prepare for that unilateral repudiation of all interest payments on loans. And then you repay the capital but only on your capacity to repay. And prepare for the avalanche of runaway inflation that will hit the rupee with a backup. And that is dinar and dirham. The rupee remains in the market. You don't remove the rupee, because that's going to cause tremendous dislocation in the economy. So let the rupee remain in the market. But you make dinar and dirham legal tender. And you have to have police in the market, to police the purity of the coins. And when you find people bringing bogus money in the market, as soon as you cut off one or two hands, everybody will learn the lesson. Oh yes. You cut off one or two hands, everybody will learn the lesson. That you don't play around with this money. And that will solve the problem of the banking system, and the loans, and the monetary system, the big bogus money which is come to us. I want to stop now and invite you to listen to, give me your comments, ask any questions you want, inshallah.
When you take a loan from a bank, you pay the interest. Now there's this thing called interest-free loan for Muslims. Are we actually paying interest but we're not seeing it? Or is there such a thing as the Muslim mortgage?
You are actually talking about Islamic banking.
Yeah, I mean, but
Yeah.
then there are kind of...
Islamic banking says that they are free from riba.
Okay.
The Islamic banking uses something that they call murabaha. A murabaha transaction is one in which both buyer and seller are aware of the margin of profit. The house is on sale for £100,000 and I want to buy the house, but I don't have the 100,000. So the Islamic bank says, no problem, come to us. You don't want to borrow money in interest, so come to us. We will buy the house for the 100,000, which is a lie because they never buy the house. We will buy the house for 100,000. And we will sell it to you for 300,000. And we give you so much time to pay. If this were a cash transaction, then why would I pay 300,000 cash for a house which is available for 100,000 in a month? If this was a cash transaction. Someone should make an appointment for me to meet a psychiatrist. But this is not a cash transaction. It's a credit transaction. So the bank is giving me time to pay. And as a consequence of giving me time to pay, they've increased the price. The market price is 100,000. That's the cash price. And money increasing over time is riba. So in Islam, a credit transaction is halal, provided that the cash price and the credit price remain the same. Nabi Muhammad ﷺ borrowed. He had loans and he paid them. But the credit price was never higher than the cash price. What the Islamic bank is doing is riba. But it is worse than the conventional bank. The conventional bank gives you riba through the front door, the Islamic bank is doing it through the back door. And they wouldn't listen to me, so I said, okay, you don't want to listen to me here, you listen to me in the grave here. Any more questions? Yeah.
Thank you for your so in terms of from an everyday level as a person, you obviously live in the West, you live in this environment. What steps should how do we sort of govern ourselves?
The sun has already set, and it is late in the day now to be discussing individual solutions. Yeah. What should I as an individual do to get out of riba and so on? The urgency of the subject is far greater than that now. Rather than me devoting my time, precious time that I have with you at the age of 80, to guide you in your personal affairs, it is a macro problem to address. The macro problem. Pakistan now is facing war. As certain as the sun rises from the east, Modi is moving to war. Okay? What advice should we give to the government of Pakistan? Because we credit Imran Khan with sincerity, where there is sincerity, there is the possibility that he can learn. There is that possibility. I can't go to Pakistan to teach. No, I won't survive. So if I have to contribute anything to Pakistan, contribute anything to Kashmir, suffering Kashmir, how many days now? Almost 60 days. Yeah. And embattle the Indian Muslims, I have to do it from Britain. So I'm not here only to talk to you. I'm here in Britain and I need your help. I need your help and help Israel for me to get to address Pakistani gatherings and Kashmiri gatherings and gatherings of Indian Muslims. Because the scholarship that I have, very few scholars of Islam have that scholarship. I don't know how many years I have left. And this is the battleground where I can send a message. So rather than deal with the micro, what to do, how to buy a house in London and so on, which is the micro, I prefer that we deal with the macro, to raise your level, your intellectual level, raise your mind, to grapple with the big issues now. And wherever I've met Pakistanis in the world, they have been at the forefront of building masajids. They have been at the forefront in establishing Islamic organizations. Wherever I've met Pakistanis in the world, and I've been traveling for 50 years now. So Pakistanis are resilient people, yes. Once they don't sell themselves to the dunya, that my dream is only a Mercedes Benz motor car, that those are people who are lost. But those who still have hearts which are with love for Islam, and I find that amongst the youth, the young people, they're the ones who attracted most of me in Britain. So I'd very much like to hear your views. This may be the first time you've heard about this way to deal with Riba. Any questions? Yeah.
So I've got two questions, if you don't mind. One, I've got two questions.
No, you don't have to stand up. I'm talking to...
Yeah, so I've got two questions. The first is a conceptual question, which is related to the ayah in the Quran where Allah says that you are entitled to receive your principal amounts back.
Yeah?
And then he adds on to that a condition, la yuzlimuna wa la yuzlamun. So
in the process of giving up your demand for riba, no harm will come to you, and you will not be inflicting harm on others. Go ahead.
So, from a practical perspective, and I'm not supporting the idea on the other side of the table, but I just want to understand that from a practical perspective, the borrower has this argument that if I have given you £100 of loan or £100,000 of loan, my purchasing power at this in 2019 is this much, and if you repay me this amount in 5 years' time, the purchasing power would drop. So this is kind of an infliction that you are enforcing upon me, or in a way you are penalizing me for extending you this amount of loan. So my question is that how do we fit in this practical aspect in relation to this
Good,
condition?
you want to answer that question, Ishra?
Inflation is not allowed, so
How do you solve that problem?
dealing out, dealing in dinar and dirham.
That's right. Correct. You denominate the loan in dinar and dirham, not in pounds and in US. When the time comes to repay, regardless of what is happening to the paper, you repay the loan in dinar and dirham. And then that solves the problem of inflation. Yeah.
Okay, and the second question is related to this. So once we have dinar and dirham as our legal tender, in case of Pakistan, for example, as you suggested that Pakistan should have a backup currency in terms of dinar and dirham, how would these dinar and dirham come into Pakistan? Because Pakistan does not have the capacity right now to buy these dinar and dirhams, and Pakistan does not have the mineral resources, so Pakistan is not a mineral resource rich country to have dinars and dirhams.
Good. Who will answer that question? Not you, Sebastian. Hold it. Where is the dinar and dirham going to come from? And if you don't have sufficient dinar and dirham, what do you do?
Produce it.
Huh?
Produce it.
You
What is
trade.
it?
Trade, you trade rice.
Produce it or trade.
In?
Market traders.
Barter trading. Barter has limitations. I go to the barber to get a haircut. He cuts my hair. I offer him a copy of my book, Jerusalem, in the car, and he says, Sheikh, sorry, I'm not interested in your book. Barter has limitations. Okay. You do not have sufficient dinar and dirham in the market, what do you do? Okay, Subhan.
You use other commodities
Like?
Or barley or dates.
Yes, yes, correct answer. Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu came and offered the Prophet ﷺ some dates. He said, Bilal, these are high quality dates, where do you get them? He said, O Messenger of Allah, I have 2 kilograms of inferior quality dates, they're about 5 pounds each. And I exchanged it for this 1 kilogram of superior quality, which is about 10 pounds. So in exchange, no value the same. Bilal, this is the essence of riba. Did you hear? An unequal exchange of dates, 2 kilograms for 1. This is the essence of riba. What you should have done was to sell the 2 kilograms and take that money and buy the 1 kilogram. But Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu exchanged 4 camels for 1, no riba. An unequal exchange of dates was riba, an unequal exchange of camels was not riba. Why? Because when there was a shortage of dinar and dirham in the market in Medina, they would use dates as money. That's why. And this is why he said gold for gold, that if a transaction involves, a very famous hadith, that if a transaction involves an exchange of gold for gold, or silver for silver, or wheat for wheat, or barley for barley, or dates for dates, or salt for salt. Once it is like for like, it must be equal for equal, it must be hand to hand, and therefore must be a cash transaction. Other than that, he said it will be riba. What is common to all 6, gold, silver, wheat, barley, dates, and salt, is that they are all used as money. So money is defined now. Money in Islam must always have intrinsic value. The value of the money must be located in the money. And money in Islam is either gold and silver or commodities of food consumption which have a shelf life. Can you use mangoes as money? No, because mangoes will rot. Can you use animals as money? No, animals can die. So if you're in Cuba and you don't have sufficient dinar and dirham, you could use sugar. And if you're in Java and you have a shortage of dinar and dirham, you can use rice. Is it rice with the husk or without the husk? With the husk, the paddy. With the paddy. Because the corn, you may remember the 7 years and 7 years, the corn had to remain in the husk. So there you are. When there is a shortage of gold and silver in the market, Nabi Muhammad would use an article of food consumption which is in abundant supply in the market, and that was dates. But businessmen are very innovative. The minute you make dinar and dirham legal tender in Pakistan, the businessmen will go to work immediately. And you'll see the market flooded. The market will be flooded overnight with dinar and dirham. Alright? First flight to Dubai. First flight to Dubai. And the dinar and dirham will be coming into the market. You don't have to worry about that. What's going to happen, however, as the demand for dinar and dirham increases, the rupee will be going down and down and down and down. And when people see that the rupee is becoming less and less valuable, it's going to be an avalanche to this side and that will collapse. Yeah. Any more questions or comments? Yes.
Could you possibly tell us about BRICS? BRICS?
BRICS.
Yeah, what they do to get around the US dollar and
yes, what's the question about BRICS?
BRICS. If you could explain a bit more about BRICS.
BRICS, explain it, okay. Can someone help me with this? Just squeeze a lemon and and put some honey in it. No water. Brazil, Russia, China, India and South Africa, BRICS, came together to try to establish an alternative to the International Monetary Fund. The leader of this camp is China. Brazil has now opted out because of a regime change in Brazil, and the former president is now in jail. Thank you, Sheikh. Honey and lemon for the throat. South Africa does not really have much freedom. The South African government does not have the freedom to actually act as they want to. The Jewish power in South Africa is very strong. In cricket, there's a term called playing both sides. Playing both sides. If we have a match and we're short of players, okay, you could designate one player who will play on both sides. That's India today, playing both sides. In order to block Pakistan, they have their close ties with the United States and close ties with Russia. It's only China that they have the odd man out for them. China is the leader of the team, and Russia is a supporter of China in BRICS. The other three are just hangers on. And they are making progress. BRICS is making progress. These two are enough, China and Russia are enough. And they have Iran supporting them. I can show you an example of what China is doing. China has made an offer to Saudi Arabia to bypass the petrodollar. They will buy your oil from you and pay you in Chinese yuan. And when we pay you in Chinese yuan, we are prepared to redeem the Chinese yuan for gold at the market price. So technically, China is not in violation of the IMF rule prohibiting the use of money. Use of gold and money. If the Saudis were to accept the Chinese offer, the US dollar will collapse. And if the Saudis refuse the Chinese offer, the Chinese can all eventually decide, we're not going to buy your oil anymore. But China is the biggest customer. China is Saudi Arabia's biggest customer for oil. And the Chinese demand for oil has been constantly growing faster than others. So the writing is on the wall for Saudi Arabia. This is an example of the efforts being made to try to bring down the petrodollar. When they put sanctions on Iran, the Quran prohibits sanctions, economic sanctions prohibited by the Quran. Then India, in order to present some credentials to impress Russia, offered to buy Iranian oil with gold. They pay for it with gold to get around the banking system, where you are prohibited from trade because of sanctions. This is an Indian ploy of playing both sides. Whether BRICS has a future or not is irrelevant. What is important is the hadith that they are going to eventually fight for the mountain of gold. That war is coming. When that war comes, it's going to be the Malhama. I have a little book at the back of that war. And I've gone to several verses of the Quran concerning that war. It's called the Quran, the Great War and the West. A small book at the back. I also have the gold dinar and silver dirham, Islam and the future of the money at the back. And I just made a new edition of my book. Oh, it's not here as yet. It's still coming. The importance of the prohibition of Riba in Islam. It will be here in October, inshallah. So I believe that the petrodollar monetary system will collapse with the Great War. Any other questions or comments?
They say that the India-Pakistan war was like this time.
This is my military analysis, but I am not an expert. You have the Pakistan Military Academy will have people far more competent than I am. It's not my field. My field is the Quran. But I can offer a comment that India's strategy would be a war which will avoid a nuclear war. And the way you avoid a nuclear war is a lightning strike, a war that will last for 2 or 3 days, and then the Security Council orders a ceasefire, and Pakistan has no option but to obey. And you have 3 days to reach Karakoram. Once they reach Karakoram and they cut the Belton Road, they hit China a devastating blow. China will have to look for somewhere else now to reach Quadar. And it will be a devastating blow for Pakistan as well, the image of Pakistan, if India reaches Karakoram. So as soon as the Indian forces are even within striking range of Karakoram, they could immediately ask their friends in the Security Council to call for a ceasefire. I think that's the Indian strategy. A limited as lightning strike in a war which will last for 2 to 3 days are not enough time for nuclear weapons. Yeah.
I think this war has been engineered because
Huh?
I think this war has been engineered many years ago because Pakistan is a threat to Israel. Israel can't expand and become the greater Israel while Pakistan is sitting there with its nukes. They have to get rid of those nukes so Israel can grow.
I believe that it is when the Great War takes place. This is in my book. When the Great War takes place, then Israel will utilize that opportunity in alliance with India to attack Pakistan, to denuclearize Pakistan. That is the golden opportunity that they will have, to denuclearize Pakistan. And if Pakistanis do not go to the Quran, they have no hope. Now, only the Quran can take you out, only the Quran can protect you. But they're not studying the Quran. And when I teach the Quran, they close the doors of the masjid on me. you had enough for today?
One more, sorry.
Yeah, one more.
About the riba, I've read in the hadith, it said that the person who pays riba, when he dies, the angels are going to give him weapons and say, go and fight with Allah. And I've also read that that person is going to be thrown in the lake of blood. When he tries to get out, the angel is going to throw a rock on his head.
I have a book entitled The Importance of the Prohibition of Riba, but it will arrive in London in another 2 weeks or so, in which I have mentioned several hadiths on the subject of riba. But the one that I mentioned is enough. That the Prophet cursed you. Yeah, that is enough.
I was trying to join the door, so I was trying to understand this. I mean, I might be completely wrong, but what I got the idea was that, because you know the money, the riba, you know who prints it and gives it to the banks, and then it comes to people like us. Because this money is going to these people who's actually fighting against Allah, right? They're using this money for weapons and bullets and into sending their armies into Muslim lands. And so I think that money is being used.
That is a peripheral problem.
Yeah.
What do you do with your riba money?
Yeah.
The interest that accumulates in the bank. This is a peripheral problem.
Yeah.
The central problem is how do you get out of the hole?
Yeah.
We're not talking about the individual Mahmoud or Ahmad. How does he get out of the hole? We're past that stage now. We're talking about how to get Pakistan out of the hole. And if you could get Pakistan out of the hole, you can open a way for the rest of the world of Islam. Okay? And I have offered a solution. And I'd like you to consider it, think about it. The help I need from you is to help Ishrat for me to be able to get a chance to speak with other Pakistani gatherings here in England, particularly here in London. And since they closed the doors of the masjid to me, we'll have to get halls, or even if you have an individual private home, 30, 40 people, I don't mind spending a whole evening until my horse is hoarse. Like I did today, it doesn't matter if it's a small gathering. There may be one amongst you here today who will become a thinker. One of you. And my work would have been beneficial. Yeah. So I need help to organize events like this. I need help. Just stay in touch with Ishrat. May Allah bless him for what he's done today. And I will be back in London on I'm leaving on Saturday for Inverness, and then I go down to Edinburgh, then I go to Glasgow, then I come down to Manchester, then I go to Leeds, I go down to Newport, I go to Birmingham, I go to Nottingham, I go to Leicester, then I come down then I go to Brussels. I have my students in Brussels, then I come back on the 3rd of November. I have 2 weeks for London, 2 weeks. And in those 2 weeks, I would like to devote more attention to methodology for recitation of the Quran, that is the Quran and the moon. If I had another 1 hour with you, you would be absolutely astonished of how the Quran should be recited. You'd be astonished. This is Allah's blessings to me. The Quran and the moon, methodology for recitation of the Quran. And then the second topic, the Quran and the stars, methodology for study of the Quran. Because I realize if I don't teach them the Quran first, they can't understand Riba. They can't understand Gog and Magog, they can't understand Dajjal, they can't understand Dabbatul Ard, unless I get them to go to the Quran first. So, I'm hoping that we can get some help for those 2 weeks from November the 3rd to November the 16th. On the 17th I leave to go back to Trinidad, and Allah knows when next I can travel again. So this is the help I need. If you can help Ishrat, I think many of you must be his relatives. He was born here in Reading. Many of you must be his relatives here. If you could help him, and we could get gatherings of Pakistanis, gatherings of Kashmiris, and gatherings of Indian Muslims, these three. I have devoted a considerable attention to Eastern Christians, to Orthodox Christians, to Rome. I've been to Belgrade twice already, I've been to Moscow. But I've not devoted attention so much to this subcontinent. Yeah? So I want to now, because Modi has made his move, so now I have to devote more attention to this side. Indian Muslims, Kashmiri, and Pakistan. And I can't do it there, I have to do it here. Okay, if there are no more questions?
You've got a question on a piece of paper?
On a piece of paper. Do you take students for learning from your knowledge? My books at the back, that's what you have to study. Study my books and study my lectures. They're all on my website, you can download them. And the way I teach is through my lectures and my books. But I am establishing an institute of Islamic eschatology in the north of Malaysia. The problem is I have only one teacher. Only one. I can't as yet get a second. There's no one who's capable of teaching this subject now. But the one teacher I have is a competent young man, but I've assigned him to write his first book. My teacher, Maulana Fazlur Rahman Ansari Rahimahullah, ordered me to write my first book, which was Islam and Buddhism. And he said, the reason why I'm ordering you to write this book is that you will have no fear of writing in the future. And because of that, I have had no fear. And now I have about 30 books. So because he is my student, and he is the one who is teaching, I've ordered him to write his first book. So classes are suspended now. We have no one to teach. The buildings are there, but no teacher. So you have to wait, whoever wrote this question, you have to wait until classes are resumed in the north of Malaysia. And you can't go to study eschatology until you've done your homework. You have to be studying the Quran first, you have to be reciting. You cannot study the Quran unless you're reciting the Quran. Did you know that? In my old age I learned that. I didn't know it all these days. If you're not reciting the Quran, you cannot study the Quran. And you have to be reciting the Quran cover to cover once a month. Continuously teach your children. Today was the second day of Safar. Tonight is the third. So you recited your first juz and your second already. Which is the first juz that we recited? Can you recite part of a surah and leave the next part? No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. Allah prohibits that. Chopping the Quran. So the first juz has to be Surah Al-Baqarah, the whole thing. On the first day. Did you know that? So you have to recite, I don't have the time to do this now. You have to be reciting the Quran in order to study the Quran. That's your preparation. Any more questions? Yeah?
Is Brexit a little setback for globalization?
Just now, 1 second. Yes?
Is Brexit a setback for globalization?
In order for one universal currency to eventually emerge, you have to dislodge the US dollar from its position as the international currency. But the next currency after the US that is firmly planted in the world is the euro. So whatever may have been the reasons for Britain voting to exit the European community, whatever may the reasons, whether they are aware of it or they are not aware of it, the hidden agenda, the mastermind, is to eventually undermine the euro, so that you can bring about the collapse of both these currencies. And Brexit is not going to harm Britain alone, it's going to harm Europe as well. Okay? So, inshallah, I hope that you will respond to my plea and assist Ashrat when I come back in November, that I may get a chance to teach and explain to the Pakistani community, the Kashmiri community, and the Indian Muslim, inshallah. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين.